So a variable is really nothing more than a container for information. So anytime you see something like a score or the number of lives in a game, that's something that is a variable. It's something that Scratch can remember. So we can use variables to remember answers to different questions or to remember to count things. So a number of different reasons that you're going to want to use a variable. So let's talk a little bit about how we can do that. I've got my cat here, and what I want to do is create a situation where the cat asks me what my name is, and then we create a variable to remember that. So the first thing I'm going to do is go over here to the side where it says variables, and I'm going to make a variable. And I'm going to call this variable remember name. And I've got the option to do this for all the sprites or for this sprite only. So that's sort of your call. If the variable is only going to be used in this particular sprite, you might want to select that. Otherwise, you can keep it for all sprites and it'll work fine. You can't have a variable with the same name if you use this for all sprites, but if I do this for this sprite only, I could have a remember name for a cat, I could have a remember name for a different sprite as well. So I'm just going to leave it for all sprites. That's going to be just fine. I'm going to click OK there, and you can see that my variable shows up here in the top left-hand corner. If I don't want that being seen, I'm just going to uncheck it right here in this variable list. Note too that if I double-click on this, I have different ways of displaying that variable, including a slider bar that will let me actually set the value of it. For right now, though, I don't want people to see it at all, so I'm just going to uncheck it. So I now have a variable called remember name. So what I'm going to have to do, have the cat do, is ask a question and then set the variable remember name to whatever I answer. So to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with an event, and so this will be when the green flag is clicked. And then I'm going to go to sensing, and I'm going to do ask what's your name. Now I can obviously change this text to whatever I want it to be, but for right now, what's your name? That's exactly what I want it to say. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to set a variable. So I'm going to go to my variables, and I want to set my variable here. Now I don't want to set my variable. This is actually not something useful, so I'm going to go ahead and delete it all the way. And I'm going to bring out this again since I deleted that. But now let's see that it says set remember name. And if I had a different variable, I could go ahead and pull it from this drop-down list. Now I don't want remember name to be equal to 0, because then anytime I use it, it's always going to be 0. I want that to be the answer to the question. So what I'm going to do is again go back to sensing, and just below this ask there is this answer. I'm going to click and drag and put this inside the 0. So now this variable remember name is going to be equal to answer. Now I want the cat to call me by my name. So after that is set up, I'm going to go to looks. I'm going to have the cat say nice to meet you, and then whatever your name is. Now here's the thing. Right now all I can do is type in here. I can't actually use that variable. So I can type in nice to meet you, comma, space, but the problem with that is I don't have any room to put in this variable. So I'm going to do something called a join statement. And it's down here under the green operator section. It says join apple banana. And I'm going to put this inside the say command. So now in this first circle I can put nice to meet you, comma, space. And then in the second circle, this is where I'm now going to put my variable. So I go back to my variables, and I bring out remember name, and I'm going to put it right here with the banana. So now it's going to say nice to meet you, and then whatever this answer is. So if I click on the green flag, the cat asks what's your name. I'm going to type in my name, and then it says nice to meet you, and there it is using that variable. So by using these different things, and I can start changing variables, right? So I can do things where if I had a button, every time I press the button, I could have it go up by 1 or go down by 1. If I were giving a quiz, I could set that up so that every time you answered the quiz correctly, you could get a point for your variable, and then you could keep track of how many you get right by the end of the time. So there's a lot of ways to use variables to bring a little bit of flexibility and customization to your app.